Good evening. Welcome to Coach World TV. My name is Terry Yoffe, and tonight I am so excited. I have a wonderful guest, Coach Dave Buck.
Yes.
So Dave is a master certified coach and also the CEO of Coachville, which is a coaching school.
Yes.
And we'll talk certainly more about that. But there's a little story behind our having Dave, not only here, but at our member meeting, our ICF NYC member meeting on Wednesday night. Actually, we were in London, another board member, and she had heard about you and saw everybody wearing those beads.
Yes.
And she got me aside and said, I gotta go meet him. I gotta go meet him. Terry, we gotta have him. I said, okay. So sure enough, Heather went and met you. And then when we thought about our January meeting, we said, who could we get to kick off? And she jumped right in. Okay, Dave Buck.
Nice.
So here you are.
Here I am.
Here you are. So
looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
It's going to be really fun, actually.
Yeah. So Dave, we had a great dinner, and Dave is very innovative and creative.
True.
And has come up with a whole new philosophy about coaching.
Yes.
So why don't you start, and then we'll...
Just let it rip.
Just let it rip. That's great. Okay.
All right. Well, so I was talking with you about this fundamental premise, like this big idea, okay, that the 21st century human is a player, not a worker.
Right. So when you
say
that,
that's a big change.
So we've heard the word player a lot.
Yes, that's true.
And the connotation of it. And I'm
yes.
sure that's not exactly
no, that's not exactly what I'm looking
what
for.
you're talking about.
Correct.
So expand upon the philosophy in the player versus the worker.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's some of the big ideas, all right? So the 20th century was, in economic terms or in global history, will be called the industrial age.
Okay.
And in the industrial age, every human was trained to be a worker. A worker means you go to work, you show up, you shut up, and you do what you're told.
So we're talking from one level up to the highest level?
Oh, pretty high up. The whole corporate industrial structure was somebody at the top is going to tell everyone what they need to do. And then that's going to filter down. And so that everyone has their job. And you just show up and do your job, which means you do what you're told. Right, that's pretty much, it's really boring. And in fact, that whole philosophy of how to organize business was really getting a lot of momentum towards the end of the 20th century. If you think about, Michael Gerber and the E-Myth, right? Telling every entrepreneur, what you have to do is take everything that needs to be done by your company and dumb it down to a simple job that anyone can do with basic training, and do every time the same way, every time without making any mistakes. And that was the idea of creating jobs. But what we have learned in the last 10 years is that kind of job, first of all, it's mind-numbing. It's not fun at all. And it's not even effective. Businesses that are run that way, the employees hate their jobs. Most people in corporate life hate their jobs because their jobs have been dumbed down to the simplest task, and that's not fun. Now, what's happening, though, is there's this massive global movement towards play. So many things are being made into games. Anything you go to do now, there's points. It's like you get points for this and points for that. So everything is becoming a game. And that is good, because if you make it a game, then you have to be creative. You have to be resourceful. So when I say player, I mean you use your creativity, you're resourceful, you try to figure out how to play better, and you're engaged. And that's the big thing, is engagement is the currency of the new economy. every business, every leader, every organization is trying to figure out, how do we engage people? This is the big question.
Right.
You do not engage people by giving them simple jobs and telling them what to do. You engage people by challenging them in a game that they have to be creative and resourceful and figure out how to play. So that's what I mean by a player.
Okay. So I have a lot of questions here.
You just go for it.
How did you track, or how do you know that people want to be players? That, was there a trend? Was there research done that starts to see this trend come into play?
Well, so first of all, you can see it because it's everywhere, right?
Okay.
I mean, there's games everywhere. If you look at things like these online social games, there's hundreds of millions of people playing these games.
Okay.
Farmville,
right.
World of Warcraft. This is not like 500,000 people or 1 million people. This is 500 million people playing these games.
Wow.
I
guess I'm not a player.
Yeah, that's a massive figure of people.
Yeah.
So why are so many people playing these social games? It's because they're yearning to play. Humans are born to play.
Right. Absolutely.
Every little kid plays. What happens is, in the 20th century, we were trained to be workers. But our natural human nature is to play. We're born to play, to be creative and self-expressed and try to have fun and learn and grow. That's our human nature. So that's why we're seeing it. Human nature is like busting out of the chains of work and saying, we want purpose. We want to play. We want to be creative.
How do you, I have two questions.
Yes.
One is...
Only two? Yeah. Come on! I'm sure
at least to start. At least to start.
All right, just to start. All right, start me off with two questions.
So when you think about game playing,
yes,
what comes to my mind is competition.
Yes.
When people sit and they play with partners, these different games,
yes.
They're there to win.
Yes.
You play a baseball game or any other kind of a game.
Correct.
You're there to win as competitiveness.
Yes.
How do you take that into the business world and make it a player and a game, but not with the competitive edge, because that can be destructive?
Okay, that's a myth. Okay.
Okay.
That's a myth.
Which part is the myth?
That competition is destructive. Competition, if the true definition of compete means to seek the best in oneself in the company of others likewise engaged.
Okay.
That's compete.
Okay.
Now, in any endeavor, every player in any endeavor, business, sports, any endeavor, you're always having to find the balance between compete and collaborate. Compete and collaborate go hand in hand.
Okay.
It's not one or the other. So just here's an example. I coached the Seton Hall University soccer team for 14 seasons. Okay? Great team, one of the top college teams in the country. We have 24 guys on the team. They show up every day for practice, and once or twice a week we have a game against another team.
Right.
Okay? But most of the time we're practicing and playing amongst ourselves. So every day we come to practice, and what do? We divide up into teams.
Okay.
And we play.
You're right.
Right? So every guy on that team is in pursuit of becoming a better player. And the way you do that is sometimes we divide up teams, right? So half the guys are on the same team, but the other guys, they're on our team, but in this day, they're competition.
And I hear that.
And that's that sometimes we're collaborating, sometimes we're competing, and everything is intended for each person to become the best of themselves.
Oh.
And that's the nature of competition and collaboration. And
I'll buy that as far as being the best you can be. And maybe the word destruction, wasn't the best thing.
Well,
in looking at it, if people are working and they're competing,
yes,
it feels like there could be the chance of knocking someone out of the ballpark, out of their seat, out of their job, and not having it be to compete to be the best you can be.
Yes.
And then to collaborate.
Does
that?
No, it's a fair concern, because if you have a team, you want every person on that team to be in pursuit of their own greatness.
Yes,
and at the same time, in the pursuit of the overall good of the community. Right. And that is both. You need both. And so what you need is great coaching. Because if you're a great coach and you have your team and you notice that one player is really just in it for themselves and is going overboard on the competition and trying to actually hurt someone, and not keeping both the spirit of play, which means fair competition and collaboration. Look, if you have guys on a soccer team, they all want to be in the starting team, but only 11 are going to be on the starting team. Right. So if you're playing better than someone else that's on the starting team, you want their spot.
Right.
That's the nature of competition. But then that person has to step up and also try to be their best. That's the nature of a good team, is everyone is trying to push the envelope of greatness. That's the way it is. That's human. That's human life. And if you try to take that out, you get depression. You get all sorts of bad consequences. You know, this thing that happened in our country, like 20 years ago, there was this movement, where all the kids' games, Little League, everything, there was no winners. They took winning out of the equation. Everybody's a winner. Everyone gets a trophy. Everyone gets a blue ribbon. And you know what happened? We have the most depressed 20-year-old culture in this country. The 20-year-olds in this country don't want to work. They don't want to do anything. They sit at home. They have no ambition, because their competitive drive was taken away from them. So we have this whole ambitionless culture of 20-year-olds. Our 20-year-olds, they don't leave home. They stay home because they have no ambition to go and do anything, because they're champions. Even if they sit at home on the couch, they're winners. They're special. It's crap. We need competition in our culture to have individuals step up to pursue greatness.
So in talking about the millennials, the Gen Ys, which are the 20 to 30-year-olds, in saying that, are we finding that this age range tend to be less ambitious than
For sure they are.
people prior to them, or in my generation, where working, you took pride in what you did, or they feel an I've heard say entitlement, and
But here's the thing, so you can't categorize every 20-year-old in this way, but overall, that era of taking competition out of children's activities diminished ambition to a large degree. Because if you're on a little softball team and you're really trying to play, and little Billy is screwing up, right? But then at the end of the game, everyone's a champion, even little Billy, who screwed the whole thing up. You're like, well, why should I try if little Billy screws up and he gets the same thing I do? Makes no sense. So this is what happened. However, here's what did happen. This is the exciting thing. No, listen, this is what happened. So they took competition out of sports for the little kids. So they hate that. What do? They play games. Because when you play games, there's real competition. And so all the kids now, because they took all the fun out of sports, they're all in these things. Because this is actually more real than that. Because in this, if you excel, you can win. You have the opportunity to be excellent. If everyone is a champion, no matter what, there's no opportunity for excellence.
I can understand that. And thank you for clarification on that.
It's a big thing.
And I guess my other thought was, how do you take this new philosophy into
everywhere?
Corporate America,
corporate
into
America.
the executive level, who are usually buttoned up.
Yes, and get them to play.
Right, exactly.
Now that's a bit of a challenge. I am taking that challenge on, and it is not easy, but I'm going after it. Here's what you do, First of all, you start with the idea that every organization has one mission right now, and that's to engage people. Every company, every organization is like, how do we engage our people? Everyone says people hate their jobs. Well, what are we going to do? How do we engage our customers?
Is that a premise that is going on in
yeah, it's
that
you see it
companies
everywhere.
Are looking at
how do we engage?
Because it used to be that
nobody
valued
Correct.
their employees.
That is
they
so
were like
true.
collateral damage.
Yes,
that,
exactly.
They were pieces of
they were workers.
chattel.
They were
that
workers.
If we need to cut, they're gone.
Yeah, right. If one worker can't do it, you get them out, a new worker can come in.
That used to be the philosophy.
That was the philosophy.
And so now I'm happy to hear
it's
got,
changing.
Okay.
It's changing very much. Organizations, leaders are looking for how do we engage people, okay? Now, this is a challenge because we don't know how to do it. Right? That's why it's the new currency, is because it's the thing everyone wants to figure out but doesn't know how. Now, this is where coaching comes in, okay? Because
now we've come to coaching.
Yes, finally, this is a show about coaching. Let's get to the coaching point.
This is all great.
This is
all great.
This brings us to the point, which is the 20th century of the industrial age of work. Out of that came a philosophy called management, which is command and control. That's what management means. You control people. You get the little worker bees to do what they're told. Okay?
Right.
That does not work in any endeavor that has complexity. That only works in a situation where the activity is so simple that you just keep doing it over and over. In that case, management works. It's like, show up, here's how you do it right, and we won't have any problems. But most companies need people now to engage customers, to engage vendors, to engage with each other, to be creative, to find solutions to complicated problems. You can't manage that. That can only be coached. You coach engagement, you manage compliance. That's the key distinction. The 20th century was all about managing compliance. But the 21st century, which I call the creative age of play, you're not managing people to comply. You're coaching them to engage and to bring out their own self-expression and resourcefulness, their uniqueness. And that is awesome because that's what leads to happiness. Happiness comes from feeling like you're expressing yourself, you're contributing, you're making a difference, you're adding value. That people want to add value from their unique qualities and their true self, their purpose. People don't want jobs. People want purpose. They want purpose. But they want to get paid.
Yeah, of course.
But they don't want a job. A job is where you show up and do what you're told. They want purpose. And there's a lot of scientific research on human motivation now, which is really pointing this out. Dan Pink's book Drive is an excellent book for this topic. He talks about what human motivation really is about is autonomy, mastery, and purpose. That's what people really want in their lives. That's what creates happiness. So that's if companies want to keep their people, if companies want their customers to be engaged, you need to go down that direction of how do we create real value, create real purpose and meaning. And you can coach that, but you can't manage it. That's the key. So
I guess it's one company at a time that starts to make this change.
Yes.
It's a fabulous philosophy, and God knows, I hope,
it's going to work.
I'm sure it will, but it will take time. I mean,
yes.
And I'm sure that people are yearning for that,
yes, they are yearning for it.
And yet, I think to some degree in today's economic landscape,
yes,
people might be afraid.
Now hold on. You're right.
To take a risk because they don't want...
But you're right. But this is the thing. The economic landscape is being caused by the nonsense from the 20th century. The only way out of the mess is a radical change. The reason the economy is so in the tank is because the whole economy is based on the mass production of things. It's more, more, more. Greed, greed, greed.
Right.
And humans don't want that anymore.
Right. I think they've learned over
We've
the last
learned
years.
more money. Once you have a certain
do...
amount of money, more does not make you happy. More stuff, 3 TVs,
Oh, yeah.
4 cars, it doesn't
No,
make anyone
no,
happy.
no.
What do people really want? They want purpose,
They
meaning.
want fulfillment.
They want fulfillment.
Right,
Exactly.
yeah.
So we have to start thinking differently in the way we
Yes.
organize our organizations, ourselves. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's a bad phrase, but the way I say this was the 20th century was the McDonaldization of the world. It's like everything is McDonald's, cookie cutter, more. We take high school kids, we tell them to show up, do the exact same thing every time. We've dumbed down our entire youth by getting them to work at McDonald's and do the same damn thing over and over and over again. They have no brain power. And listen to this. There's a lot of research now that's showing the cause of Alzheimer's. You know, we have this massive pandemic of Alzheimer's.
Yes.
You know how you get Alzheimer's? By doing the same thing every time.
Oh.
Routine is the enemy of your brain.
Right.
And we routinized everything in the 20th century. The 20th century was basically a hotbed for Alzheimer's. We killed people's brains by routinizing everything because we are so damn afraid of making mistakes. We have to do it the same way and don't make mistakes. You go to school. Imagine this. You've seen little kids. Lively, vibrant, creative, expressive. They love people. They want to contribute. That's humans. Right. We take them, we put them in school. We put them in little rows. Right. We tell them, shut up. Don't help your neighbor. That's cheating, right? Do your own work. Give us back the right answers. We train little kids to be workers. We squeeze the life out of them.
Right. That I definitely agree, and you can see that how passionate Dave is about all of this, and that's great. That's really great.
So anyway, I want to answer your question though, because you talked about people being afraid to make change, right? So the way you make change is it's big, but it's simple. Okay, we have to teach people 2 things: how to play and how to coach.
So let's stick with time is going very quickly here.
Yes.
When we talk about coaching, one of the things when we had met back in December, I think, one of the things you noticed or you see a trend is that more people are going to learn coaching and take coaching courses, not to become a coach per se in the true sense of what we know, but to have the ability to coach in a way that's productive and effective to their employees.
Correct.
Whether it's doctors, then anything, even chiefs even.
Yes. So we call it the coach approach. All right, that's the idea, the coach approach. And the coach approach means you take a coach approach to anything you're doing as a manager, entrepreneur, teacher, leader, doctor, lawyer. Anyone who wants to be a positive influence in the lives of others can benefit from learning how to coach. And what does it mean to learn how to coach?
Well,
learning how to coach, I will tell you what this means. To learn how to coach means you learn how to find the game in whatever needs to be done. Everything that needs to be done can be turned into a game, which means you find the fun of it, you find the creative expression in it, you find the result you want. So when you coach someone to play a game, you need to know, what is the result? What does winning look like? And then you coach them to win, which means you help them come up with a game plan, something you talk about all the time. You got to come up with a game plan. You have to teach the skills of the game. You have to teach the inner game. What do you do when you bump up against fear? Because fear is a big part of playing games. It's how you relate to that fear. In Coachville, we have a class where we teach people how to play with fear. It's a big thing, because when you learn how to play with fear, then you can do anything, and you're going to be more creative in the world. And then the last thing, as a great coach, my mentor, Manny Shelshide, who's was the head coach at Seton Hall University in soccer, he said, the number one responsibility of a coach is to create an environment where the game comes to life. So if you create an environment where the game comes to life and all the people on your team get into it and they're engaged and they're excited and they come to life.
Wonderful.
Right? That's the life we all dream of.
Right,
we don't want to go to work. We want to go out and play.
Right.
But you can go out and play in an office if it's organized as a game where there's competition, there's collaboration, you know how to win, you have to be resourceful and figure it out. That's why people are playing these games, is because people love a good challenge. What we did in the 20th century was we took the challenge out of everything by making it routine. Then there's no challenge. But humans love a challenge. So if you organize your business so that people can show up every day and step into the challenge and be rewarded for their creativity, knowing that they'll win some and they'll lose some. Right. They'll make messes sometimes. They'll lose sometimes. But if you lose and you're a good coach, then you help them figure out, what can we learn from this? And this is all part of the coach approach.
We've got another minute or two.
Yes.
So I don't want to abruptly end, but we still have a little time.
Yes.
If you'd like to give people your website to go to, please do that
visit
now.
us at coachville.com. Okay, that's our website, coachville.com. And we have a course called Play to Win, with to win, the TWO. And in this course, you will learn how to transform your mindset from the worker you were trained to be and become the player you were born to be. And that's what we do at Coachville.
So before we end, and we probably have another minute or so, but I want to say thank you.
My pleasure.
Really enjoyed this. I hope you have. It's been fabulous.
And come on Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday. Come to our meeting, ICF NYC chapter, and it's icfnyc.org, and you can find out about coming on Wednesday and actually seeing Dave in person.
We're going to do a live game.
We're going to do a live game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that should be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, we still have a little bit of time. We haven't gone off yet.
Nice.
So I wanted to, before we
Quick,
left,
in 30
I wanted
seconds.
to say, how wonderful this has been, how energizing, and how so much of this is true, I mean, in life.
Awesome.
So, you can keep talking for another second.
Okay.
We're not off the air yet.
We're not off the air yet.
We will go off in a second or two.
We'll see you at Coachville.
Coachville also.
Yes.
Right. That's great too.
Yeah, Coachville is we're always on the cutting edge of the coach approach.
And that's interesting. And again, you can see Dave. Go to Coachville website and you'll learn more about them, and certainly you can get in touch with Dave.
Yes,
and then
you can find me there.
Right, and then come to our meeting on Wednesday. And I think we have another second or two.
Nice.
Yeah, another second or two.
Quick, say something pithy.
I don't know. I think we've said a lot. It's been very entertaining.
It's good.
And I love this whole gamification.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah.
Is really, how do you find the game in life? Because life is a game.
Exactly.
And that's just the truth.
Right. Exactly.
We've taken the game out of life, and we want to put the game back into life.
Right. Well, that's great. Gamification of business.
Yeah, business and life.
Right.